Brilliance Audio presents Talking Animals by Joni Murphy, performed by Eduardo Ballerini. The city is an island, and an island is a ship that never sails. The city is a vessel for animals. A long time ago, before the island was a city, it was a crumb of land bobbing in an ocean tea. But even then it was jammed with plants and animals. The island has always teemed with life, moored as it is at a powerful juncture of rivers, the ocean, greater islands, and a whole roiling continent. It is hard now to picture the island of before, in its green state crisscrossed by streams and edged by marshes, as it has been changed so thoroughly by wave after wave of arrival and violence, construction and reconstruction. But before or after, this place was ever vital. This was never just any old island. It has always been a planet in miniature, a bubble of disordered life. When the outsiders came, they came in messy herds. Foreign birds arrived in flocks, and multitudes climbed from rough wooden crafts, all knees and heaves over the silty rocks. Once grounded, some lay for a long time, crying for beloved friends lost at sea. Others put their grief aside and got straight to business. Whatever the attitude, all newcomers carried some memory, potent or cloudy, of the homes they'd left behind. They hoisted various flags and commenced the same battles that had driven them from their old lands in the first place. More, then more arrived. You've never seen such a multitude. Everyone squeezed in, and then did it again. So tight did it become that the ground in some areas disappeared beneath the crush of living creatures. The island swayed and creaked, but did not sink, because this was a ship of bedrock. Native gulls turned above flocks of European starlings strategizing in trees. The creatures from away brought with them panic. Gruesome histories trailed like a putrid smell. They had firm notions of how life should be lived, and they intended to impose them. The island trembled. Somebody cobbled a street where a soft path had been. Somebody drew a map. Somebody carried out a massacre. Animals tore into one another. They spread diseases and infections. A pool of blood formed, dried up, then turned into flakes that the wind carried away. There is no story of a city that is not also a story of brutality. There is no story of brutality that has not been retold as one of heroism. The invasive species began right away to mythologize themselves. They renamed everything. They got into fights with one another, and whoever won renamed places once again. They built houses, stores, bars, and jails out of the island's trees. The city burned again and again, and they rebuilt in whatever architectural fashion was current. Everything was brutal, and everyone died. The living tore down old buildings and erected new ones in their place. They renamed streets and buildings after their dead, only for the living to die in turn. To repress the psychic chaos that swirled inside, the living turned to numerology. They began to count everything, and categorize what they'd counted. Someone measured out the whole island, then divided it with a grid. Grid sent the message that everything was under control. Meanwhile, more arrived, and more died. "Don't panic," they murmured to one another as they drew out long, straight lines. Once they had the grid on their map, they set about filling every square on the real-life land. They built great halls and courthouses. They built fire stations and granaries. Around the edges they erected docks and strung bridges. Larger and larger ships kept bringing in more beings and things. Some grumbled because by now they saw themselves not as invasive, but rather as new kinds of native species. The community worked on complicated myths to explain away the violence at the core of their city-making.